My name is Jessica Bea. I am a senior here at HUHS. I am also the senior board representative, and I also will be tonight's moderator. Thank you, candidates, for being here today. We are looking forward to some great questions and some great answers. Now I would like to introduce the student panelists and the students that are playing key roles in today's forum. So we have Nash right over there, who will be running the time for you. Do keep in mind that time will be running, and you are able to see it this entire time. Can all of you see the time correctly? It'll just be the video. And then we have Connor, Casey, Andrew, Vincent, Garrett, Brady, Amaya, and Elena. And then we also have Harsh over there, who, if you were in the audience, check in with him, and he'll be answering all of our he'll be asking all of our audience questions tonight. All right, it is important to remember that candidates and audience that this forum is to provide candidates with an opportunity to introduce themselves and to show where they stand on important HUHS issues. We will be following our outline as strictly as possible. We have introductions, prepared questions, student questions, audience questions, and then closing remarks. Please act professional. Wait until it's your time to speak. Do not speak of other candidates, and focus on answering the questions. Audience, if you have any questions to ask the candidates, please use the cards located at the check-in desk. Harsh will give you those. We will be collecting these periodically through the forum. The audience questions are the second to last part of the forum. Please focus your questions on policy issues. And if you're meeting with us virtually, please email candidate.forum@huhs.org. Again, candidate.forum@huhs.org for any of your questions. We will try to get to as many questions as possible. All right, so we are going to be starting off with each candidate's opening statement, which will be a minute each. We are going to be starting with Mr. Curley, and then the next candidate will be on the candidate's left, so going to Mr. Savage, and then going to the end. We will be switching up the whoever starts, but it will always go to your left. All right, Mr. Curley, you're all set.
Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for allowing me to be here tonight. First and foremost, it's great to see the students being involved in board duties. I've been to a couple meetings, and it's nice to see the interaction with the students interacting with the board. A little bit about me. I was born and raised in Hartford, graduated from this school back in 1998. I have a junior in high school. I have a 7th grader that will be coming here shortly, and I just figured it was time to get involved. I wanted to be more involved in the way the direction the school is going. I figured no better time than the present. I actually took a tour of the school a couple weeks ago, and it has changed dramatically in the last year or so.
Great, thank you, Mr. Curley. Your time is up. All right, Mr. Savage, you can go ahead.
Hi, my name is Bill Savage. I've been in Hartford for quite some time. I actually served on the board here for 6 years and on the Hartford Joint 1 for 6 years as well. I have been involved in the legislature as a legislative aide for the last 16 years. I was the committee clerk for education reform and for urban education. And right now my boss, Janelle Branchin, is the chair of the campaigns and elections, so I am the committee clerk for campaigns and elections, and you can imagine that it's an exciting place to be right now with the past election issues going on, so we're pretty busy there. Well, I have 4 kids. They're all through the process now, and I took a couple of years off. I'm ready to get back.
Savage, their time is up. Go ahead, Mrs. Rodriguez, you have a minute.
Hi, my name is Heather Rodriguez. I've lived in Hartford for the past 15 years. I'm a mom of 6 kids and 1 on the way. I share custody of my oldest 3, so I understand the struggles of that. My oldest is a freshman here at HOHS. I have a sixth grader at Central, a fourth grader at Rossman. I homeschool a kindergartner. I have two littles that are 2 and 4. They're sitting back there. I hope they don't get kicked out. I've worked in retail for the past 25 years. I served in the Wisconsin Air National Guard for 6 years right out of high school, and I recently became a member of the American Legion, as I really have a passion for veterans issues. I don't really have a lot of free time, as you can imagine, but I have started a collection of books, and one day I am going to read them.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Dorfer, it's your turn.
Hi, my name is Todd Dorfert. I am a lifetime member in Hartford, along with going back a couple generations. I have 2 daughters who worked their way through Hartford High School. They're 26 and 23, married to my wife Laura for the last 30 years. So I have deep roots here in Hartford. When I found out that there was a couple openings on the school board, I thought that this would be a good time to give back to the community. I really do feel like Hartford, I mean, if you can see by the attendance here, 5 people coming on to looking to be on the school board, I think Hartford's in a very good place, and I'd like to just take this opportunity to maybe throw my hat in the ring and see if I can help.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Gum.
Hi, my name is Jim Gum. Thank you to all of you for taking the time to come out tonight and hear what we have to say. My wife Joy and I live in Richfield. We have 2 boys. One, Mason, is a sophomore here at Hartford, and I have a 13-year-old 7th grader at Richfield. My professional life, I'm in my 25th year of service with the Waukesha County Sheriff's Office. I rose through the ranks there, serving in many different capacities. I'm currently the second in command. I report directly to the sheriff. I'm responsible for about 375 employees and a $44 million budget. So I do have some experience in terms of public sector budgeting and the challenges that we face. I did also do some teaching, so I'm a little familiar with the classroom. I taught for 3 years at Waukesha County Technical College in their associate's degree program. Like many of the other candidates, I care deeply about the school district and all of our kids, and I think this would be a good opportunity to use my experience to try to contribute.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we will be moving on to our general questions part of the forum. Candidates receive these questions in advance and will have 1 minute again to answer. We will again be starting with Mr. Curley and moving again to the candidates to the left, and we will be changing it again with each question. Go ahead, Elena.
Many people, including our students, don't know the duties and responsibilities of a school board. Why should they know more about you and the role?
The role, it's pretty simple. The role of the school board is to oversee the school's finances, make policies, and work with the administration to create a vision and goals of the district. And the second part of that question is, I'm not a micromanager. It's not the way I would manage. The everyday staff was hired for a reason, and unless there was an issue or a problem, I would let them do the jobs they were hired for.
All right, perfect. Thank you. You can go ahead, Mr. Savage, and answer the question.
Yes, I believe the role of a school board member is to be kind of the window of the community. It all depends upon, of course, on the situation. Sometimes you're a cheerleader. Sometimes you're more of the boat rocker. Sometimes you have to go against the popular positions, and sometimes you go along with it. But I think in the end you need to understand that the community has a certain level of expectation for the schools that they fund, and you are there as their voice of the community with the school. So that's
Perfect. Go ahead, Ms. Rodriguez.
So I think it's really important for people to understand the role of the school board, because it has been designed to give a lot of local control. And yes, of course, there are state and federal laws that dictate a lot of what goes on. I don't think most people understand and appreciate the discretion that the school board has in regards to making policies and procedures that affect the daily lives of the students and the staff and really the community as a whole. And I think that it's important to know who's on your school board so that you can feel confident that they represent the values that this city holds as is important. And you should be confident that the voices on the school board are diverse and will make sure that they represent all the families that, you know, consist in this community. And you should be confident that they are going to lead with honesty and integrity and transparency and that they never forget who they answer to.
Perfect. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Dorfert.
So the school board, I think, sets the direction of the school, and in that sense, I would say that, you know, are we going to be a school that is focused on AP test scores and trying to push kids to college? Or I would argue that possibly that we shouldn't do that so much, and we should help these kids navigate through what could be their careers coming up. Another thing I think school boards do is they spend money, and I think it's very important to be fiscally responsible. And if I'm elected to the school board, I think fiscal responsibility will be a very strong point in my points of view and in my arguments.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Grimm.
Yeah, thank you. Certainly from a civics perspective, of course, an elected representative style of government, the board is your voice. The members of the board are elected by you to represent you and your concerns. So yes, while it's true the board does set policy and policy directives, I don't believe that should be done without clear input from the citizens that we serve, which is all of you. So that would be certainly a priority for me, should I be put on the board, is to be open and transparent and to make myself available to hear your voices and your concerns, to ensure that whatever decisions that we make are meeting your priorities. And many of the other candidates touched on it already in terms of diverse educational opportunities, and fiscal responsibility should be a priority.
All right, thank you. Okay, now we will be moving on to our second general questions, starting with Mr. Savage, and then again moving to the left and ending with Mr. Curley. You can go ahead, Amaya.
How would you describe your budget priorities?
Well, the first thing you have to have is a faculty and staff that is top of the line, the best you can get. So we always, when I was at Joint 1, we kind of put together a concept called a destination district, where we try to attract the best teachers and staff that we possibly can by having competitive pay and solid compensation packages, and also offering our community, which is probably one of the better selling points that we could possibly give, is, you know, come to Hartford and enjoy the community and the people, and as far as the budgeting of the facilities goes, we have a 5-year plan that we put together. We go through the building and
All right, Mr. Savage,
identified
your time is
all
up.
of the
Mr. Savage.
needs, and
Mr. Savage, your
that's it.
time is up. Please stop.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. Rodriguez, go ahead.
All right, so when it comes to budget priorities, first and foremost, what would be important to me is always thinking smart and creative, thinking outside the box, doing things like Jeff Walters has commented on in regards to having things serve dual purposes. Maybe it's because I'm a mom of 6 kids, but I see how impactful it can be to think creatively and achieve the same results without, you know, spending as much money or time and energy. On top of that, what would be important for me in regards to budgeting priorities is really utilizing Fund 46, which is really just an avenue to save money appropriately so that our taxpayers don't have to be burdened with unnecessary referendums.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Dilford.
I think when it comes to the budgeting process, it's going to, in my mind, look a lot like our home budgets. You have a list of needed things, and you have a list of things that you want, and the school system is no different than that. sometimes you can get exactly what you want, and sometimes you can't. And by the same token, there's things that you need that you can't always get the best of. So you draw a happy medium. We all do it in our homes, and I think that that's how a school board should run the school. I think it should be a very common sense approach. We have a beautiful facility here. We have many things that are very nice, and we should keep them that way. And if we can upgrade along the way within budget, we should absolutely do that, but we should do it conservatively.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gum. Go ahead.
In terms of budget priorities, I'd be looking at what our core responsibilities are as a district and as a school. Certainly providing for diverse educational opportunities, setting curriculum, and providing opportunities for the kids to take advantage of those. Recruiting and retaining quality educators. Doing market analysis to ensure that the teachers are compensated at a level that's competitive to be able to retain quality staff. Providing for building maintenance, both short-term and long-term. 5-year capital improvement plans, as was mentioned earlier, is a good way to do that. Regular reports on maintenance, both long-term and short-term. And again, just to close, ensuring that we do a thorough curriculum analysis to ensure that not only academics, but professional trades and all the opportunities that are available out there now, that we're touching on those and have the right people to be able to teach them.
All right, thank you. And then ending with Mr. Farley.
My budget priorities would be first and foremost spending money on what we need to provide our students with the best absolute education we can and still maintain fiscal responsibilities. Also, you still need to keep up with updates to the buildings and facilities, because the longer you put them off, the more expensive it does get. And to go along with compensating the teachers, the staff, to retain the quality that the Hartford Union High School deserves. You want to strive to be the best, and sometimes you gotta pay the teachers to be the best.
All right, thank you. We will now be moving on to our third general question, starting with Ms. Rodriguez and ending with Mr. Savage. Go ahead, Garrett.
How do you plan to attract and retain good staff?
Well, clearly this is a very important question, and I think that there's a lot that we can do to retain good staff. I could list a whole slew of names of teachers that have made such a positive impact on my kids, and for that I'm eternally grateful. Teachers like Ms. Thomas, Ms. Holzman, Mrs. Senyuk, Mrs. Schluter, Mr. Flynn, Mr. Corte, Mr. Sitzman, Mrs. Barley. I know every family has their list of names. And so one of the things that I would personally like to focus on is making sure that we give them proper preparation time. I know it's something that we've, stepped up in regards to all the complexities that COVID has brought to the table, but I definitely like to see it long-term, because that life balance is really important. Going home with a lot of work or, feeling overwhelmed doesn't make anybody do their job better or feel good about it. And to that same point, I'd like to make sure that we give our students enough resource time, because they also have a lot of things going on outside of school, and life balance is important.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Dorfert.
I think that when it comes to attracting good staff, one thing that has worked for me in my job is that you try to set up a system that runs well. Good people, great people are attracted to great systems. If you set up a good system, I think that you'll have people who are able to make changes within it. One thing that I've found is when you're dealing with smart people, and teachers are smart people, they love most to have the ability to make some changes within their small bubble. So if they can make some changes, they can have some creativity, you'll be able to get a group that starts to organically move on their own and really excel. So if you keep the ticky-tack little rules down, you give them the ability to be great, I think that will get out, and people will want to come here. Staff will want to come here. It's all about the system, I believe.
All right, thank you. Mr. Gum, go ahead.
In terms of recruitment and retention, from a practical sense, regional market analyses can be done to ensure that the district is within competitive pay and benefits ranges, and I would fully support that in terms of ensuring that, as indicated earlier, that the excellent teachers that work here are compensated on a competitive level. In addition to that, though, sense of pride in the community and the organization that you work for is immensely important. I work in a profession that from time to time suffers from a PR, public perception image issue, and that can have a significant detriment on the ability to recruit and retain good staff. So ensuring that all of the staff, not just the teachers, but all the staff here at Hartford High have a high sense of pride and know how valued they are is important.
Thank you very much. Mr. Curley?
First and foremost, like the other candidates have said, is compensation. I mean, ultimately, people want to be compensated for the work that they do. With the schools of our size, you have to stay competitive. We live too close to other districts that if they're gonna pay a higher wage, the staff are gonna go to other places. So ultimately, you got to stay competitive with your wages. Saying that too. Secondly, you need to build a culture, and you need to have everyone buy in. Well-disciplined students, so that they're not disruptive in class. You got to be transparent and honest with your staff, starting with the administration, school board, all the way down with everybody. You got to be transparent, be honest, give the teachers the tools to succeed, and the main goal should be giving the students the best education we
All
can.
right, thank you, Mr.
We're all
Curley.
on the same team.
Your time is up. Go ahead, Mr. Savage.
Well, to expand on my answer that I was given before about it being a destination district, one of the things about designated districts is not just about the compensation, and it's about a work atmosphere where you're respected and you're valued as a professional. You're treated as such, and you have a consistent work environment where we get rid of some of the turmoils at some school districts. I can think of one on the other side of the county that seems to always be in some type of turmoil, and we have a nice solid group of people, and you build on it.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, we're going to be moving on to our fourth question, starting with Mr. Dofert and ending with Ms. Rodriguez this time. Go ahead, Vincent.
My question is, were there any concerns you saw that made you want to become a school board candidate?
Yeah, I saw that question and then I had to think about it. There's really not anything in that systemically wrong with what's going on in Hartford. I never thought about coming into the school board because I thought that there was a big problem that needed to be solved. I really came to the school board to throw my hat in the ring because I thought it was an opportunity to volunteer. It was an opportunity to give back. I guess the one passionate thing that I would have is I think that we could put less focus on four-year colleges, and I think we should put more focus on skilled trades and develop a stronger relationship with the technical colleges in the area, both Moraine Park and Waukesha County. I think those things could make a big difference in our students so they can keep their debt down after they get out of high school, after they get out of college, and that they can create a money, that they can actually learn how to make money and support
Mr. Dofert,
themselves.
your time is up. Go ahead, Mr. Gum.
In terms of concerns regarding the current school board, I don't have any other than to say I would want to continue with the good decision making and direction that the example of the individuals that sit on the board now have set. They have low debt service. They've prepared for expansion and maintenance through 5-year capital plans. And expansion has been done without referendum. I think they deserve some praise for that. In addition, they've worked with the school to bring our kids back, both in person and virtually if it's desired, so that everyone involved in that, I think, deserves quite a bit of praise. I would caution in terms of setting policy perspectives from saying, oh, just the trades or whatever. I personally believe in more well-rounded, diverse educational opportunities, of course, to include trades, but not to exclude any other offerings.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Curley.
Same with the last two. I wouldn't say I have any concerns other than to make sure the students are all, that know all their options. 4 years of college, the UW extensions like UWWC, tech schools, trades, military, and the workforce. 4-year college isn't for everybody. For some, it's great. For others, they don't need 4 years. They just want to get out and get into the trades, get their hands dirty. So that would be my only concern, is just to make sure everyone is well aware of all their options. And I look at this as an opportunity to get involved and continue with the direction the school is headed. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Savage.
Well, I too would agree that the skilled trades has certainly been underserved, and it seems like it's undervalued these days. But we can chew gum and walk at the same time. We can have an excellent 4-year college prep program, and we can have skilled trades and tech programs. And we have the largesse to do those types of things and do them well. I also think that there's a great opportunity to really expand the choices and the different avenues that students can go through to get through high school and move on successfully to their dreams and their aspirations. Well, all kinds of, with the virtual schools, a blended mix, and with some flexibility and.
Go ahead, it's your turn. Sorry, stop. Ms. Rodriguez.
Okay, I would mirror a lot of what these other folks have said in regards to the curriculum. Luckily, though, I feel like that is something that is being addressed with the advancements that the curricular director has discussed. I've gotten involved because I had a breakdown of some trust in regards to some school issues, and sadly, I feel like that's an issue that we've seen across the country. That we are very fortunate in Hartford that we have not suffered from some of those more significant problems, and that is certainly due to the level of leadership and support that we've had. But we'd be naive to think that we're not as susceptible to things like that. And so I really got involved because I want to be a part of making sure that we continue that course and that we keep politics out of our classroom and that we have valid discussions regarding American history and human rights and the Constitution without making it political. And I certainly think it's possible, and I think our children deserve that type of an environment.
Perfect, thank you. All right. Now we will be moving on to our final general question, starting with Mr. Gum and then ending with Mr. Dofert. Go ahead, Andrew.
Okay. If you were elected, what would you do that would allow students to maximize their educational opportunities?
Thank you. I'd answer this question twofold. Number one, by taking advantage of in-school time through use of outside-the-box ideas like block scheduling. While on first glance it looked a little bit like calculus to me, I do understand that it involves the ability to take additional coursework while in school. So maximizing your time while you're in school, in addition to maximizing your out-of-school opportunities. So continued partnerships with both the private and public sector through internships and job training. I've always been a big believer that people learn by doing, and whether that's sciences, math, or professional trades, as mentioned earlier, being able to get hands-on and make those relationships and interactions with outside employment, I think would be crucial.
All right, perfect. Mr. Curley?
I'd give students all the resources they need to succeed, plain and simple. I mean, it's such as mentorships, more of a one-on-one if students want to reach out to someone that's already been going back to the trades, in one of the trades, or that's gone to the four-year college, just to ask questions and to be able to, more of a one-on-one basis. The other idea was like a trade show. I call it a trade show where I come from, where you set up, and I believe they have them at the school here, is you set up around the gym different different, I want to say it, stations for, there's college stations where, and the trades, tech schools, so you can ask questions. So, you know, go through and find out what people that have done it have to say about it as they go as the students go forward. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, go ahead, Mr. Savage.
Well, I seem to be answering the next question first all the time here. I was just talking about the virtual education, some blended education, so that we engage and support all learners to discover their passions. You discover your passions and you go for it. And the teachers and faculty here at Hartford High School will help you do that and go for it and be encouraged to go for it and try not to get put into this, you have to go to a four-year college. You don't have to go through a four-year college. You don't have to do it right away. You can do other things. You can go to a tech school. You can be an apprentice for an electrician. A master electrician, we write their own ticket these days, and they're going to be in short supply. So find out what you want to do and go for it.
All right, perfect. Go ahead, Ms. Rodriguez.
All right, when it comes to maximizing educational opportunities for our kids, I really have two things to say about it. One is, I think that it's really important that we individualize our learning as often as possible, and I know that that's a lot easier said than done, and that every teacher would love to do that if they had the time and the resources. But I think that's where it would fall on leadership to be creative and try to come up with any sort of solutions or resources to help with that. Because our kids who struggle need the individualized attention or whatever resources we can give them, and the kids that are doing really well shouldn't be held back because of the constraints of, you know, numbers in the classroom or whatnot. And then the other way I would answer that I feel is also very important is making sure that we count on the wealth of resources that we are lucky enough to have in Hartford, and that we include and involve our different business leaders and manufacturing leaders so that our kids can tie the academic learning that they're, you know, doing every day with real life applications, real jobs that they can go for.
All right, Ms. Rodriguez. All right, go ahead, Mr. Dofert.
I think that we do a real good job of dealing with the top 20% of students. We give them everything they need. And I think we also do a pretty good job of dealing with the bottom 20% of students. We have a lot of programs. I think the 60% in the middle is sometimes underserved, and we're always trying to throw projects at them, or we're trying to give them a one-word go here or go there. I'd like to see us work with teaching our kids how to think for themselves. I would like to focus on getting our students to be able to think through the first, the second, and the third point that has to solve a problem. Critical thinking is something that is definitely needed in the industries, and I think that it's something that we could focus on. And if we focused on that a little bit more, I think our students would come out better prepared for life.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you, candidates and panelists. We will now be moving on to our next section of the forum, which is our student questions. For anybody in the audience, if you do have any questions, please put your sheet in the orange bucket by Harsh about now. Perfect. Okay, we had about 65 submissions that were created by students here at AHUHS and narrowed that down to 5 that we felt were the most important. Each candidate, again, will get 1 minute to answer until moving on to the next. Again, starting with Mr. Curley and then ending with Mr. Gum. Go ahead, Connor.
Out in the workforce, we are seeing a big increase in the need for people good with computers, coding, cybersecurity, engineers, etc. Would you as a school board member encourage the school to prepare students for jobs in that field, computer science classes, technology classes?
Absolutely. I've already made pretty clear that I'm pretty invested in the trades, the techs. Technology is the future. It really is, and if you don't adapt with it, it's going to leave you behind in the blink of an eye. It's moving so quickly. So yeah, absolutely invest in technology. Invest, anything you can, get your hands on. Again, it is the way of the future, and you might as well be a leader in it. If you're not going to lead it, again, it's going to pass you by. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Savage.
Well, I also agree that computer technology and so on and so forth is going to be extremely important, and I think that it certainly deserves a priority in the curriculum. Cybersecurity, programming, we're moving along really quick, and you're going to have to, you guys are going to be the ones who are going to have to take the reins and go with it. So, yeah, I believe that computer technology and concentration on computer skills is going to be absolutely critical.
All right, Mr. Savage, thank you. Ms. Rodriguez, go ahead.
So in regards to advocating and encouraging any sort of technology training, I think the answer is a no-brainer.
Sorry, I just want to pause for 1 second. We're just having a little bit of technical difficulties with the timer. We're good? Okay, perfect. Sorry, you can go ahead and start again, Mr. Rodriguez.
That's okay. My point is that any sort of education geared towards technology, I think, is a no-brainer, yes, that we've seen how important it is in so many different aspects of our life, and certainly not supporting something like that would be really inhibitive for our students in regards to the potential jobs that they'd have available to them.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Dofert.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I think it's easy to say that yes, we support it, but how do we support it? And that's kind of where the school board comes in. I think the technology and the computer training is a perfect example of, again, a trade. I would call that a trade. It may not be a traditional trade like a plumber, electrician, tool and die maker type thing, but it's definitely something that you see people going into. It's not a 4-year college necessarily. It's many times a certificate. It's many times a learn on the job, on the as you go type thing. Now, if we get some good partnerships with outside firms, with companies that can come in here, that can work with the students, can also get the students to figure out what would be the best way for them. So yes, let's support it, but let's support it smartly.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Gum.
Yes, thank you. In terms of supporting technology, yes, that's a definite yes for me. I was pleased I attended a recent school board meeting, and it was discussed in terms of purchasing different technology applications, and I was happy to hear the current school board members ask the superintendent and the individuals in charge of the purchasing what different type of platforms may be available to the students, and they reported back on that, and they're going to be trying to explore some additional expanded options. In addition to that, while some CAD programs may be available at kind of a tech school or a line level, so always keep in mind that if students are wishing to move on to more advanced computer engineering degrees, then baseline mathematics and sciences are going to be required as well.
All right, thank you, candidates. Moving on to our second panelist question. Mr. Savage, you will be starting this one. Go ahead, Casey.
What is the greatest challenge you have faced in your life, and how have you overcome it?
Go ahead.
Yeah, could you repeat that for me?
What is the greatest challenge that you have faced in your life, and how have you overcome it?
The biggest challenge that I faced in my life. Is that correct? Is that the question? Well, that's an interesting question. Well, I'm not sure. I guess I really couldn't come up with something that I felt was so challenging that I needed to overcome it. I always had I was a drummer when I was in high school, and I was just absolutely terrified of playing in front of anybody. And to get over that fear was something that I knew that if I didn't do it and I didn't play in front of people and get in a crowd of people, that I would never be able to achieve any of my dreams.
All right,
So
thank you,
I
Mr.
did,
Savage.
and I overcame it.
Savage.
So thank you.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Rodriguez. And then, sorry, it's before, if you do need the question repeated, we will happily do so, even if it is not the beginning of it. If you need it repeated, and we will do that as well.
This one's an interesting one because I feel like lots of things have been challenging for me. I have worked really hard to get myself and my family to the modest spot that we are at. Some of the things that maybe come to my mind is parenting has been really challenging, and I'm not really through it yet. So, I think there's daily wins and losses on that, and I think we're making forward progress. So I feel like we're getting there. I've also been through basic training, and that was very scary. And I do use that as, if I can do that, I can do a lot of things. And what seems really scary in the moment doesn't actually materialize quite into that. And I like to use these kind of experiences to teach my kids that it's okay to do things that are hard. It's okay to do things that you think you will fail at, and you should still do them because life is worth living and, doing that stuff. So.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Mr. Dilfert.
Usually when I get asked that question, I say I raised 2 teenage girls, and that was the most challenging thing I've ever done. But honestly, I've been extremely blessed throughout my life. If I focus this on a school board type question, I would say that when I went to Hartford High, I did not study well. I was not a great student. So now as I go through my professional career, I am always struggling to overcome what I didn't do, back in high school. So I think that, that's why I'm I guess, fairly passionate about trying to get kids to understand that you have so many opportunities, and you can take the little that you have and you can parlay it into something great, but you got to do it. You really have to do it.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Gum.
Yeah, on a personal level, quarter of a century in law enforcement. I'm also a veteran, and like my fellow candidate, thank you for your service. I could think of a few times throughout my career that I've had challenging things to overcome, but on more of a practical sense, being married for 20 years and raising 2 kids, not from a negative perspective by any means, but those of us who have been married a long time and have raised a family know that the decisions that we make are so impactful, and it can be difficult and challenging because it's life-lasting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Curley.
For me, this was an easy question. It was high school. High school was tough. I wasn't a great student either. I just wanted to do the bare minimum, get through, and it didn't come easy. It not at all, not at all. My parents would vouch for that. But I made it through. I found a path that suited me, 9 months of technical school, and after I graduated technical school, I moved on to an apprenticeship. The city, or the electric utility, paid for the 4 years of my apprenticeship, and that was the greatest accomplishment that I think I have faced, other than raising a family, 2 kids like the other people have said too. I mean, that's a challenge in itself, but I would ultimately say high school was the most challenging thing that I faced in my life. So,
all right,
thank you.
And then, all right, continuing on with our third panelist question. Ms. Rodriguez will start with this one. Brady.
My question is, how have your past occupations prepared you to be a school board member?
Well, I've worked in retail for the last 25 years, and you get exposed to a lot in those settings. And I have worked with a lot of young people of varying academic abilities and backgrounds and whatnot. And one of the things that I have seen firsthand time and time and time again is a need for our youth to really work on some real life practical skills, that critical thinking. There are so many times when very bright students cannot think beyond the step that they are in, that they do not understand how their actions affect the next person. And I think that is something that we need to really try to work on and tie it with our academic learning, because that's really something we need in society.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Doper. Go ahead.
For me, it was some of the people that I worked for over the years. I've been in metal cutting or tool and die for my entire life here in Hartford, and I have worked with some just amazing people. Soon Dave Schulteis, Bob and Denise Mance, Tom Heckmovich. I mean, these are all people who went to Hartford High School. They did not go to college. They started a business, and they became the American dream. And my mom did the same thing. I have been very lucky to be around people who didn't necessarily have top of the line education, but they decided that they could do it. And they started their own business, and they became very successful. And they became successful because they worked extremely hard, and they willed it to happen. I would like to get that kind of thought process in the student body. I think it's extremely important.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Gum. Go ahead.
So when I was a patrol cop, my kids thought I was really cool. I was on the SWAT team, and when I got promoted to lieutenant, I commanded our whole patrol division, and they thought that was great. Now I don't do anything that resembles that at all. As the inspector of the sheriff's office, I set the budget, the policy, and the directives. I do the hiring, firing, all of the politics in terms of meeting with the committee and the county executive, doing labor contracts, employee contracts, all the lawsuits that come in through our corrections. As a sheriff's office, we run a jail, so there's a lot of lawsuits that come in through that. So I'm continually working with risk management, corporation counsel. We have a lot of outside contracts with all the school districts in Waukesha County to provide school resource safety officers, so I'm doing contract negotiations pretty routinely. I think all of that provides experience that could be translated into this position.
All right, thank you. Mr. Curley?
For me, it's critical thinking. When we have a power outage, you have to think a couple steps ahead. You have to get along with people, work well in a group, be able to listen to other ideas instead of just, wanting to go with yours. Those kind of things, I think, would play well into being on the school board itself, is basically just getting along with people and listening to both sides of the argument and doing the best that's best thing for the students. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Curley. Mr. Savage?
Well, I already mentioned 16 years in the state legislature as a legislative aide on a lot of education committees. I understand the issues and the ins and outs of funding and curriculum and other stuff. But before that, I spent lots of years as a restaurant owner. And, besides all of the things, the hiring and the firing and the managing and the ordering and the reaching out and the marketing and the survival and trying to pay your taxes and it's just a well-rounded set of experiences that help understand what the needs of kids moving forward are.
All right, Mr. Savage. Thank you very much. Ms. Rodriguez. Oh, Rebecca. All right, going to our fourth panelist question. Mr. Dofert, you will go first on this one, and then Amaya.
If the decision on whether or not schools should require masks becomes up to the individual school, what will your position be?
I hate these masks. I can't wait until we get done with them. I guess a lot of that would be determined on, when does that happen? Does that happen tomorrow? Does that happen after several months? I think in general, I'm saying that people can figure out if they want to wear a mask or not. So my decision would probably be that I would let people figure it out on their own.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gum.
Yeah, likewise, I'm not a huge fan of having to wear it, but I do understand that to some extent it does protect people, especially if we're going to be around folks that might have compromised immune systems. So while I personally don't really enjoy wearing it from day to day, I never know the immune capabilities of the people that I'm interacting with, so I do try to be cognizant of that. I would agree that my decision would be based on when in time that question is asked of me, where we are at with vaccination rates, where we're at with current infection rates. I would take all that into consideration. I would lean towards wanting to allow individuals to just make the decision on their own. That's where my preference would go, but I would let the data drive some of that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gum. Mr. Curley?
I'm gonna jump on board too. I don't like wearing them either, but I respect where people, schools, large areas, right now you have to. I wasn't a big believer until I actually had COVID, and it's not a fun thing to have. So I respectfully wear my mask, and I can't wait till we're able to take them off. But you have to trust the experts. You got to believe what they're telling you, and when the time comes, that's when we'll be able to take them off. We get the shots have to be readily available for everybody, and I feel that they haven't yet, and I'll continue to wear my mask where I'm asked to wear it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Savage, go ahead.
If it was up to me, the students would not be required to wear masks for most situations. I see everybody is 6 feet away and you're pretty well separated over here. There's no reason for you guys to have masks on. Sometimes there is. Sometimes if you're all in a minivan and you're going to be there together for an extended period of time, then you wear a mask. But if it was up to me, no, you wouldn't have to wear a mask under those circumstances right there.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Rodriguez?
So similar to everyone else, I'm not a big fan of these masks, but I understand the reasons why we do them. I would advocate that when the time is appropriate, that we start to allow our individuals to make the best decisions that's for them, and I think that's one of the great luxuries and privileges that we have in this country, is to make the decisions that are best for us. But when that time comes is probably when the vaccine's more readily available. The thing that I get a little concerned with masks is that people use this as they focus on it a little bit more instead of focusing on overall hygiene and healthy living and using common sense. Like he had kind of referenced, sometimes it's appropriate and sometimes it's appropriate to focus on other factors as well, and sometimes I think we miss out on that.
Okay, thank you. Starting out, our fifth and final panelist question will be starting with Mr. Gum. Go ahead, Connor.
What do you believe is the greatest aspect of HUHS that other schools may not excel in or at?
I'm sorry, that other schools may not have what?
That other schools may not excel in or at.
Okay. Well, I certainly don't want to, try to cut down on other schools, but I do know that Hartford has the trades have been mentioned here many times, and I know that their welding program is very, very highly has a great reputation in the area. I think Hartford has a tremendous amount of school pride, and working down in Waukesha County, I've had an opportunity to go to many different schools and many different school outings, and I can say that Hartford High is at least on par or better than other schools in terms of the pride that not only the community has in the school, but the level of interaction, fundraisers. It's a bigger community, but it still has a small town feel, and you can tell that by all the interaction through the parents and relatives and students.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Curley?
Yeah, I would have to say the tech ed departments. For the longest time, we've been in the top 10 in the state for technology. When I took the tour last 2 weeks ago, I was just amazed how much technology we have in that wing. The one that still sticks out to me is the culinary arts. The culinary arts room is beautiful. If you've never seen it, you should ask to see a tour. Take a tour of the school. It's beautiful. The welding shops. I know a lot of people missed the lawn art sale from the welding department. There's just a lot of passion when it comes to the tech ed wings. Graphics was a big thing, and going back to your technology for your computer science, there's a lot of good things to do here at Hartford.
Thank you very much. Mr. Savage, go ahead.
Well, Hartford we are diverse. We go rural, we've got suburban, we've got small town, we've got farms, we've got city. And I've worked with past school board members who try to overcome that, and I always wondered why. That's something to be cherished and breathe in and live it. It's who we are. It's the richness of our diversity is what makes us Hartford. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Rodriguez?
So I think we can look around at this building and we can see what a great job we've done to stay current with different things in regards to the technology or the other things. And so I think that's definitely something that sets us apart. But I think the thing that came to my mind the strongest was the fact that we were able to stay open during this very challenging time. And yes, a couple of other districts close to us have, but certainly across the state and other areas they were not. And I think that just shows the level of people working together, from the administration and the school boards respecting what the community wanted, to the students and families wearing these masks when they didn't want to, or taking other efforts to make sure that we kept COVID in check. And I think that was a huge accomplishment and something that we should be very proud of.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dilford?
I think the tech ed wing is definitely the square footage that we have devoted to tech ed is far and above any school in the area that I've gone to, and I've toured most. I think it's something that has been underutilized over the last several years, and I think it's something that we can bring back and make simply fantastic again. I think as far as the community goes, it's got two things going for it. There's a lot of people that have kids in Hartford High School who also went to Hartford High School, and I think that really binds it together, the student body together. And then you have a city of Hartford that is growing. We have the Rincon development. We are actively trying to get people in here. We have a great industrial base. I think Hartford is a place that you can come here, you can go to school here, you can grow here, you can raise a family here. It's unique that way.
Okay, thank you very much. So that does conclude our student questions. Now we'll move on to our final question category, which is audience questions. Again, each candidate will be getting 1 minute to fully answer the question. And then, Harsh, go ahead.
So for this first one, we'll be starting with Mr. Curley and ending with Mr. Gum. This is a question from the audience. Our planet's environment is changing. What is your plan to encourage our students and staff to do their part to reduce their impact on climate?
One of the main things is invest in your science programs. Science is what makes, what is changing. So with the global climate change or what have you, a lot of it has to do with science. So I would say invest, not say invest, but really kind of push the sciences and to understand how it's changing, what we can do to change our culture, how we do things, and also keep doing our part in recycling. I mean, recycling is huge. I see that, seeing working for the city, how much recycling saves the landfills and that kind of thing. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Mr. Savage.
Can I get that question repeated? I couldn't hear what he had to say.
Sorry about that. Our planet's environment is changing. What is your plan to encourage our students and staff to do their part to reduce their impact on climate?
To reduce the impact on our climate?
Yes.
Okay. The first thing I would do is champion to get out of the Paris Climate Accord that allows China to just continue to pollute at an astronomical rate, while the United States loses its industry, and we have the cleanest industry in the world. So that's one of the things I would do is understand what's going on with the Paris climate control. It's just going to be devastating to the planet and to our economy and here in the United States. So.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Rodriguez.
So this is something that I'm glad that got brought up in the sense that this is an important topic, and I care about my kids' future like everyone else cares about their kids' futures. And one of the things that I'd like to focus on is making sure people really understand the impacts of what they're doing. And that's more from like maybe a student standpoint or an individual standpoint, because so many times I see people advocating for social causes and yet they don't do daily actions. It's like, oh, it's somebody else's job to do it, when really, yes, big companies and different things can make maybe a bigger impact, but that doesn't negate our responsibility on a personal level. And that's something that I try to teach my kids about. And then, of course, from a school board standpoint, making sure that we're choosing companies or processes or procedures that, affect our environment as least as possible, so that we can be good stewards of the earth and the environment, because clearly I want only good things for my kids' future.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dofert?
So when it comes to questions about the climate, I think it's very politically charged, and although there are certain things that we can do, I think maybe education is really the way that we can understand what is described as climate change. It's a worldwide situation. I don't know that any specific thing that we do here is going to make a huge difference other than understanding exactly what is or is not happening. The planet's been changing for billions and billions of years. Maybe we can teach that to the kids, understand some of the politics behind climate change, and explain it from that way. Everybody wants clean water. Everybody wants clean food. That's obvious. That's kind of how the argument starts. But I think education, explaining it from an overall standpoint, is a way to go.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gum, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. From a school board perspective, of course, I would want to encourage the school to continue partnerships with businesses and local community groups that have good practices. But from kind of a school student perspective, yeah, I'd focus more on the educational aspect of that question and ensure that the students, as they move forward, have a good understanding of the worldwide impact of climate change. This is an educational setting, so what better opportunity to take advantage of the sciences that go along with a question such as that, learn more about it so they can make decisions moving into their personal young adult lives, not only in their personal lives, but in the companies that they choose to work for.
Okay, thank you very much. We're moving on to our second question. Okay, go for it.
How do you show your pride for HUHS?
We're going to start with you, Mr. How do we show our pride for HUHS?
One more time?
How do you show your pride for HUHS?
Well, Hartford's our home. Hartford High School is our high school. In the general area, it's just a great place to live. That's how I show my pride, by being a part of the Hartford community.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Rodriguez?
With my oldest being a freshman here, I haven't had as much experience or exposure to HOHS, but I guess I show my pride by being here, by, running for the school board, by trying to make a positive impact, by, advocating for good things for this school.
Yeah, I think showing pride for HUHS is, willing to spend my personal time to come here and try to, move forward some ideas that I think would move Hartford High School forward. Also raising my family here, telling my friends, telling people I work with, the experiences that we have had, working with some of the tech ed departments, on my own time, going to some meetings and advisories with them, volunteering over the years. I think when you give of yourself to an organization, that's the best way to show what you think of it. I mean, if you're willing to spend your own time at it, then, you care for it.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Gum, go ahead.
Yeah, on a personal level, of course, supporting the school and the charity and athletic drives. My older son runs cross country and track, and my younger boy played football for Coach Curley. My wife and I jump up and down on the sidelines and sufficiently embarrass him. So, like many parents, we engage with them in that way and take advantage of charitable opportunities to be part of the school. But like the other members have said, the dedication to be part of this board and to ask all of you to support me to be part of it, hopefully is a show or a sign of how deeply I care about the school and about the kids, and how much I want to contribute of my own time and try to be a positive impact.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Curley?
For me, I'm a sports guy. I've been involved with sports. I coach. I've coached football, baseball. I love being involved in sports with the youth. I've started coaching when my son was in 4th grade football, and gone up with him through up to 7th grade already. Going to the football games Friday nights, being around everybody there, the basketball games when we're able to finally start to go again, and just going to meetings, going to the school board meetings, trying to be involved, watching Mr. Walters' Facebook Live meets. I mean, just trying to stay involved and know what's going on. And I mean, you rarely see me out without my Hartford clothes on, because I have roots here. This is a special place to me, and I want to make it a place where everybody wants to come to. So thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to be moving on to our third, second to last of our questions from the audience. We're starting with Ms. Rodriguez.
Other than your job, what real-world experience do you have that you feel makes you the right candidate for the board?
Well, I think that I really, really care. And I know that we can all say that, and I would appreciate that we all mean it, but I have really invested a lot of time over the last couple of years in regards to Hartford Joint 1 and also here, and I've spent the time learning different things from, the different leaders within the schools and spent time trying to not only raise my hand when something doesn't seem right to me, because I think we have an obligation to do that, but I also look for opportunities for ways to help, and I've done different kind of volunteer things in the different schools, and I'd like to continue to do that here. And I have a passion for learning, and I know that there are certainly things about the school board I don't know now, but I can guarantee you that I will immerse myself in making sure that I learn, because my brain never turns off, and my poor family has had to listen to me a lot, because this is just something I really care about and want to immerse myself in.
Okay, thank you very much. Go for it.
I would say, other than my job, what probably qualifies me for the school board would be is I think I did a pretty darn good job raising my kids. They both, went through the whole Hartford system. They turned out pretty decent. I didn't wreck them with my views. It seems like they became productive citizens, so I don't know, maybe I can bring that to the Hartford High School board.
Thank you very much. Go for it.
Yeah, other than my job, but certainly maybe because of it, I'm a very pragmatic thinker. It takes quite a bit to get me riled up. I usually like to think through the decisions that I make pretty extensively and look at all different aspects. One thing that my profession has taught me is that there are many sides to a story, and sometimes things are not as they initially seem, and it takes being willing to dig into the details to really figure out what the appropriate course of action is.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Curley?
Can I get the question one more time?
Yeah.
I didn't.
Other than your job, what real world experience do you have that you feel makes you the right candidate for the board?
I would say, like, basically being able to problem solve, and like Mr. Dorfert said, raising my kids. It's a job. I mean, that's a job in itself, is just raising kids and being able to think on your own, and that's about all. That's about all I got. I mean, just being able to be a critical thinking and being able to think out of the box and being passionate about what you do. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Savage?
Well, I suppose I'll start off with 12 years of school board experience. Then what I do for a living is I concern myself with things like school funding. For example, this last biennium, we spent about $14 billion on public education, and that doesn't include about a third of that funding comes from the local taxpayers. So for the 2-year period, we probably spend about $21 billion in the state of Wisconsin on education. And from the state level, there is no accountability whatsoever. The money is there regardless of how we do as a school district, as an education system. So I think that I bring that accountability. So.
Mr. Savage, your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will be moving on to our next question, starting with Mr. Dofert this time.
The communities of Hartford and surrounding areas have become increasingly more diverse. How will you work to increase the awareness of this diversity with our students and instill the lessons of mutual respect and dignity?
So I think the Hartford area is definitely more diverse than it was, 5, 10, 20 years ago. Pick a number. And I think that in some ways, just getting people together and sharing experiences. I've done some traveling to other countries, and you deal with language barriers. You deal with people. In China, they're on the other side of the world, a completely different culture. But you start working with these people, and you find out that they're just people. They have exactly the same experiences that we do. They come from a different angle, but I've sat with people, from 5 different countries around a table, and you find out that you have so many of the same experiences. We all care about our families. I think if we just get together with the things that
Thank you very much.
matter.
Mr. Gum, go ahead.
Well, I've always been a believer that ideas such as dignity, compassion, empathy, understanding for your fellow men and women, those ideas really start at home. And I certainly instill those qualities in my kids and would carry that onto the school board in terms of my ideology. Having said that, from a school board perspective, I've actually been impressed with, and not that I'm surprised, but I am impressed with some of the current curriculum in terms of how it deals with diversity and some of the challenges that different communities face. And those are certainly going to be challenges that the graduates of Hartford Union High School are most likely going to interact with at some point in their lives. And I think that so far Hartford High School is doing a really good job of preparing them for some of that.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Curley?
Everyone here, Hartford offers a lot of different avenues for every single student. There's something for everybody here. Ultimately, you just got to get everyone. You got to give people options, and then give them the tools that they need to explore their options. I mean, everyone deserves a fair shake, whether they're in the AP classes, the tech classes. I mean, everyone deserves options, and whether you come from a rich family, poor family, middle class family, everybody deserves a fair shake. So you have options at Hartford, and that's what I like about this school district. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Savage?
Well, once again, using the largesse of a larger high school. It says, once again, we engage and support all learners to discover their passions. That's got to be on an individual basis. Kids mature at different speeds. They learn at different speeds. They learn in different ways. And they have different circumstances. And certainly the individual approach to every kid is an individual as well as a community member. I think that's a nice place to start right there.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Rodriguez?
I think one of the great things about Hartford is that we welcome diversity, and you see so often people standing up for each other, whether it be for really whatever reason. Like we stick together, and I think that HOHS has embodied that as well. And I think that one of the best ways for diversity to come across and for people to learn about other people, whatever it might be, is making sure that everyone has a voice, that everyone feels empowered to speak up, to express themselves, and to share their insights, their knowledge, their lives, so that we can all learn from each other and appreciate the different lifestyles and people in our community.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll be moving on to our next question.
A question from the audience. In regard to mental health, many kids feel the easy way out is suicide. As a school board member, are you going to be guiding programs within school for teachers, counselors, to be trained in handling or trying to notice changes in students' moods, tendencies, to guide for help?
This one we will be starting with Mr. Gum.
Yeah, I'm a big supporter of crisis intervention. I have some personal experience with it. I have a younger brother that suffers from mental illness, and I watched him and my parents navigate the not only the criminal justice system, but also the health and human services system and the educational system, and it was challenging for them. So, yeah, I do support that. I would be advocating for it. I advocated for it in my personal life and my career, and teachers and public instructors are in a position where they're able to see some of the warning signs early and get the appropriate people in place, not to mention the age groups at which individuals start developing mental illness is going to be right around the high school years. So having eyes and ears on that, as well as services offered, is going to be vital.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Curley?
Yeah, I'm a big advocate for mental health as well. There's so many different aspects of mental health as well, and I mean it's from bullying down to disorders. I mean, there's there's so many ways to reach out for help. I mean, peers for peers. I mean, if you're comfortable talking with a student, I mean, being a student talking to another student. I know the counselors here, the renovation up front, the offices are kind of by themselves where you can go into a room just to talk to the counselor over that. There's so many options to try to get help because this is such a big problem, especially with the kids. Yep. You always say there's only one way out, and it's really not true. There's so many different avenues, and if the school can't help you, there's other experts that can come in and help you as well.
Thank you, Mr. Curley. All right, Mr. Savage?
I'd like to thank somebody for asking the best question of the night. The suicides, we've all been touched by it. We've been, they're scars that don't heal. And I support every opportunity to increase the awareness, to get information to our young people on where to seek help, how to diagnose somebody who's struggling, and where to turn. And I know the faculty here has concerned themselves with it to a very large degree in the last 5-6 years, and they continue to do so, and I'll continue to support that.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Rodriguez?
So I think we definitely have a responsibility and an obligation to, identify those things and to give the staff the proper training and to give our students the proper resources and really to empower the families to work through this, because it is definitely one of my biggest fears as a parent that will be affected directly by it. And life makes everything seem important and really places a lot of challenges on all of us, and I hope that we as a school can continue to work on life balance for our staff, for our students, so that we can do what we can do to, help offset that. But clearly, making sure that we're a resource and doing what we can for our student body is very important.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Dofert?
Yeah, I think that, whether it's mental health or crisis intervention, the 4 years of high school is extremely stressful on students. Not every student, but many students, and some handle it differently than others. And we absolutely need to have teachers and staff trained so that they can see this coming. When you're in high school, everything is the most important thing, and whether it's cyberbullying or just who looked at you funny, and I think that we need to be able to, as staff, try to break these things down for the students, help them through what is just a very stressful time. So yes, I think whatever that we can do to make that happen is extremely important.
Okay, thank you very much. And then Harsh will be giving our next question.
This is the last question of the night. Drugs are being experimented by our youth. As freshmen enter the school and are trying to find their way around themselves fitting in, a DARE program is done in elementary. could you see a program in place that would again open the eyes of what the damage it could do within their high school years? Sports, academics, and friendships.
And this one we will be starting again with Mr. Curley.
Well, for me, it's getting involved in activities. Sports was always my go-to. I mean, the drama club here at the high school, just getting involved in something. The DARE program is a great program, but it's a program, in my opinion, is for grade schools. I think you have better outlets in just trying to get involved in activities up here. Again, there's a lot of activities at the high school to get involved with. So yeah, I think you have other options, but I wouldn't be against like some sort of drug and alcohol awareness class per se, or a group. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Savage.
Well, you may be well aware that either yesterday or today, the governor of the state of Wisconsin is trying to legalize marijuana. I just think it would be an absolute huge mistake. It's more harmful than what people understand. The drugs is just one of the things I can say, and one of the things you have to give kudos to Hartford High School is we just have a strong percentage of kids who are in those extracurricular activities, and hopefully that helps to steer them away from that. Do I understand about 75% of the kids are in some type of extracurricular activity? You know, so I think that
Okay, so
that's
Mr.
a way
Savage,
to
your time is up.
get it done. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mrs. Rodriguez.
So obviously, anything that we can do to help steer our kids away from that is a good thing. You know, when I think of the DARE program, I think of more educating about the dangers of drugs. I think by the time kids get old enough at this level, they basically know that. But I think that we should certainly consider whatever avenues we have to help them find better coping mechanisms, because I feel like that's probably what they're lacking. They're stressed, they're overwhelmed, and they choose that versus other coping mechanisms. And so I'd advocate for, you know, the different resources that are definitely prevalent throughout our county to come in and not just do a class, but really kind of keep the focus on it throughout the school year in whatever capacities we can, to just remind kids, you know, of some of the educational aspects, but also of the coping mechanisms that maybe we could teach them, you know, that's more appropriate.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Duford.
Yeah, this is a tough question. This is, you know, drugs and alcohol have been in high schools since they were high schools. Everybody is bulletproof in high school, and you know, nothing's ever going to happen to me, and it's just it's a problem that has been in schools forever. I don't think that any one program is going to stop it. I think it just needs to be constant awareness. I mean, there's a lot of conflicting views that are out there, a lot of conflicting messages that students are getting right now, whether it's legalizing marijuana or, you know, small amounts of drugs in different states are okay. There's just a lot of conflicting information out there. I think it has to be talked about. It has to be forefront in everyone's head, and it's just going to be an ongoing fight. And I don't think there's a magic bullet here. I don't think there's a silver bullet at all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Duford. Mr. Gum?
So when I do have a lot of familiarity with the DARE program, and as mentioned earlier, I would agree that particular program is really more geared towards younger students. But what I would be supportive of is some type of educational outlet, some individual instructor that's able to speak on the dangers of drug and alcohol abuse. I have had the unfortunate privilege of seeing how that can ravage not only students' lives, but families. And right now, the opioid crisis, both regular opioids and synthetic opioids, is a big problem and a big concern. I've always felt that life is like a series of doors, and if students are educated that some of the decisions that they make today and during their high school years could have impact on the doors that they're able to walk through later on in life. So not only from a personal safety perspective, but also their future and how the decisions they make could impact them in that way.
Thank you very much. Think that does conclude our questions and answers. Thank you, panelists and audience, for some great questions. We will end today with our closing statements. Candidates, you will have 1 minute each, again, starting with Mr. Curley, to deliver those.
First off, I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. It's a cold night. Appreciate you braving the elements. Students, thank you. Thank you for being a part of this. It shows a lot that you're interested in what's going on with your high school. And ultimately, I just want to be part of this school. I love this school district. There's so many good things going on here. And I want this to be a school where people want to come here, a destination school. So again, thank you. I encourage everyone to check out my Facebook page, Curly, for HUHS School Board, and vote on February 16th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Hasavage, go ahead.
Well, I'd like to thank all of you for putting this on and coming out and having the the interest in what's going on in your community and that. I also like to thank everybody who's watching and who came out in the cold weather. It's about 4 degrees below zero from what I understand. But lastly, I'd like to thank these other 4 people up here. I don't think that people understand just how tough it is to kind of throw yourself out there and put yourself in front of the public and in front of your peers, and I give them a lot of credit. It looks like there's 5 good people up here, so thank you.
Very much. Ms. Rodriguez?
So I definitely want to thank everybody for being here. I specifically want to thank my family for listening to me talk about school issues forever. There are probably some future school board members back there. I think that it's very important that the community really, it participates like you are, and so that you're educated about what your choices are, because the school board is supposed to reflect the values in this community, and it's very important that the school board is representative of what you feel is important. And so I hope that we don't make this into a popularity contest or anything like that, that you just really vote on what is important to you guys. And I also want to say thank you for your grace, as I am not a public speaker in any way, shape, or form, but I am a very concerned community member. I'm a concerned parent, and I promise you that if I am elected on the school board, I will act with character and integrity and honesty, and I will not forget who I work for.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dofer?
Again, I'd like to thank everybody that came here tonight. I think that Hartford is in very good hands. I think the current school board did a wonderful job. I think you have 5 choices up here that whichever way it goes, I don't think you're going to be wrong. If you decide to vote for me, I will be a conservative spender. I will watch the pocketbook of the school closely, and I will be a very strong and very vocal advocate for the trades and certificate programs moving forward. Pretty simple. And I looked at this as a volunteering opportunity. If this doesn't work out, I'll volunteer somewhere else. I will be in Hartford at some point volunteering. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gunn?
I started off the night by saying that the school board member is your voice. It's a representation of your ideals and your concerns, and I'll close the same way. I'll let you know that if you do vote for me, that I will be open and transparent, and my decision making always available to you to answer any questions or concerns that you may have and discuss them in full. I mentioned earlier that I'm a detail-oriented person, and that I believe that you get to the best decision by looking at the details. Things aren't always as they seem, and sometimes you need to spend a little bit more time looking at the details to come to the right decision. Lastly, I do have the best interest of your children, my children, all our families, and the local community in mind. And that's why I decided to run for this position.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, candidates, for being here today, willing to respond to these questions and showing your support for HOHS. Thank you, students and audience members, for providing these questions and participating in today's forum. And that will be concluding our forum today. Thank you very much, guys, again.
Can we keep these?